a good pick-me-up.
Okay, I think we are
Oh.
officially live. So I'm going to interrupt the chatter to welcome everybody to our live stream. Oh, and as I do every time, I don't know how to mute this ahead of time, so I have to wait till the stream starts and then quickly mute it so that we don't get feedback. Here it comes. The stream is about 30 seconds behind us. There we go. Okay. My apologies for that glitch. We are now live. We are streaming on YouTube as usual and recording this for people who want to watch later. So if you want to turn off your camera or mic, go ahead. But please, we encourage you to stick around, show us your faces, and participate in the meeting. Well, I don't think we got it out in Twitter, but the agenda link is in Zulip for those who have access. So feel free to post your or to get the agenda there. And if you are streaming, note that usually we keep an eye on Zulip, so you can ask us questions in Zulip if you're watching the stream, and we may or may not see them in reply. I am getting the agenda. So I really want to get in the habit of checking in on a lot of these to-do items, but we have some kind of urgent things going on right now. I'm specifically thinking of Backdrop Live, which is next week. So I think what I am going to ask for us to do is we'll do our introductions as usual, and then let's talk a little bit about Backdrop Live just to start things out, and then we can go back to our agenda because it's kind of urgent. So
Where's the agenda?
Regular introductions. There's a link in Zulip. I can post it here, or could somebody post it in the chat for Zoom as well? I'm
in Zulip.
Well, so it should be under weekly meetings, and it's the just back a couple of posts. It's the first one I posted today under weekly meetings. It's a bit.ly link. Okay. So let's go ahead. While Sarvashri is looking for the agenda, we can do introductions. My name is Tim Erickson. I'm St. Paul Tim. I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota, and I'm fortunately very busy with client work. I've got a couple of backdrop projects in the works right now. 2 of them in development, as well as support on a number of them, and also other Drupal sites, and have been kind of swamped with backdrop work as well. We've got a lot going on, in particular Backdrop Live, which we're going to talk about shortly. Joseph.
Hi, I'm Joseph. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a backend developer. I don't know. I don't really have anything interesting going on other than that our septic system is being cleaned out. Jason?
Exciting.
Hi, I'm Jason Platt. I'm from Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm a backend developer. I'm kind of here just to see what's going on and what topics to be discussed, but especially also Backdrop Live because that's on the horizon. Sarvashri.
Okay, my name is Sarvashri, and I am new to Backdrop. At one time, I created some Drupal sites, but I'm not very good at any of it, and I'm trying to learn more. And my goal is to create an awesome way for people to learn more about Backdrop and create wonderful websites for themselves, especially new people who don't have developer experience, people who want to be site builders, not full-fledged developers. And so that's what I'm working on. Ultimate guide to Backdrop for newbies. And I'm in North Carolina.
I think, Jen, you're the last one.
All right, I'm Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California, along with a meowing cat and a noisy dog, so I'll try and stay muted when they're making noises. I'm very excited about Backdrop Live and all the exciting stuff we have going on, so I'm looking forward to this meeting.
Yeah, Tim, your mic is off.
That's why I tend not to mute myself. But we noticed earlier the washing machine was going in the background, but I think it's stopped now, so I'll probably be okay. Right before you arrived, Jen, I am both excited and a little panicky about Backdrop Live because it's a week from tomorrow. We're definitely behind schedule in our planning than we were for the last one. And I'm also just busier with other stuff than I was for the last one. So I doubt I can commit the amount of time I did, which was a lot in the week prior to the last one. There was a lot of outreach to individuals, just one-on-one, getting them to submit topics and even to sign up. We don't have a lot of registrations yet, which again, I think that's because we really just got the registration live about 2 days ago and haven't promoted it as heavily as we could. So I think there are things we could do. I think we could get people there in the next week. But I'm a little bit nervous about our ability to do that. So I do think we've been trying to do Backdrop Live business separate from this meeting, but given the short timeline, I want to talk about it a little bit. So how do other people feel about where we're at and what we can get done in the next week? Anyone?
I feel like the great thing about this community and this event is that it will, if we needed to, it will run itself. So I think that, if we have the time to organize it a lot like you did last time, that's fantastic. And I think it'll be great. But I also think that we will find a way to make it happen, even if we don't have as much volunteer time. So I'm not at all worried about it. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to hearing about what our community is up to. And yeah, I'm feeling good.
Well, good.
So maybe at the
Just need to be
beginning at the beginning there of the Backdrop Live, there could be a listing for people to add to of things they want to work with, things they want to look at, things that they need. So they're and even organizing right at the beginning of the event, people could latch on to things and then set a time for them, and you're off and running. Maybe I think that's sort of how you did it last time. You had more.
Yes.
You had more things to talk about, but those things are usually similar from time to time. So
all that is true. Theoretically, it sort of ran itself last time, but there was a lot of work that went into making it run itself. We have the advantage this time of having people have been through it before. So I think the ability for it to run itself is greater this time. So I don't disagree with any of those things. It will be a bit different, but I think our expectation wasn't that it would be the same. That for one, it'll probably be a little smaller because it's only a one-day event, and just because of the resources that went into it this time. But also we are setting a lot of the work that has went into this Backdrop Live has been setting up the infrastructure in a way that we didn't the first time, right? We've actually got an event site, which will be permanent. And so next time we'll have all of this work done. We didn't inherit that quite as nicely from the last event as it would have been good. But, okay. Well, I will make time this weekend to sort of dive in and clean up the website and better prepare that for the event itself. But we also really do need to do some outreach. And also, as much as the schedule can sort of pull itself together, I think it really helps to get some ideas and some things pre-planned. So I think what would be really helpful is if some folks in the community just step forward and said, hey, what do they want to talk about? What will they facilitate? And for us to get some of that on the schedule ahead of time. So I don't know. Should we talk about, I don't know, we could spend more time getting into logistics right now, or should we deal with that outside of this meeting? Any thoughts?
I'm looking at the agenda. I'm trying to see where you are.
We're not on the agenda. I immediately dove off the agenda because of this, the urgency of this, and then we'll get back on the agenda in a minute.
Is there a link on the live site, on the main site, to the event site?
Not yet. I mean, last time I don't think we did that till about 3 days before, so we're ahead of schedule on that. There is
Okay.
on the events page. So the closest there is an event listing, and the event
Okay.
listing links to the page. But we did. I mean, thanks for reminding us, Joseph, because I think yes, getting that up on the front. We had a right before the last couple of days, we got a link on the at the top of the home page, and we should do that right away. And in fact, I'd be surprised if Jen wasn't halfway done already. That would be a great thing. Yep. Okay. I'm going to say one or two more things where I think the biggest need is, in case anybody's watching this later, and that is the one of the things is the night, sort of our European friends. We have our schedule is 3-hour blocks over 24 hours. And last time we were really scrambling to fill that European spot. I think we have a couple of people who've said they can help out during that time frame. And to the extent that this is going to organize itself, we need some folks to help, particularly with that European section. I guess that's my message. So. Okay, let's just.
I was going to say that I'm totally willing to help out where possible, but I don't want to commit necessarily up front when I might have other things that might conflict.
Sure.
So mostly I'm just going to kind of jump in and help as I have availability and wherever the current need is.
Okay, and well, let me, again, because other people might watch this, the places that I think we need the most help, or the things that people can do, and Jan, listen and add to this list, is one, we need people to just sort of step up and suggest topics and agree to facilitate them. Two, just any outreach that people can do in their own circles. So if there's any places that you can post announcements, please do that. Three, I think one of the things that we're going to need to finalize is exactly how we want to structure the meetings. But where we last left our discussion in terms of using Zoom was having a one Zoom room with breakout sessions. And I think that is going to work, but I feel like we need to test it a little bit more. But the one thing we know about if that is to work is that we're going to need a volunteer to stay in that main room at all times. So we're going to need a volunteer that's not in a session, that's just sort of staffing the info or the registration table per se, in the main room and helping people out. And I think what we need to do is get a schedule up and ask and try to fill that up and just have people take different slots. We will be able to pass, that person will have to be the host for the event while they're there, but they can pass that off to the next person. So I think that's the biggest thing, is getting somebody sort of available to fill all those slots and help people. And if we just had somebody for sure available in those late night slots for us in the US, sort of the European slots, as I'll call them, just knowing that somebody's going to be there and available will go a long way to letting the rest of the event happen by itself. But if we don't have somebody there to keep the room open, then it falls apart.
Are you using the same or similar schedule from last time? Or just a modified schedule? You have that ready to go? We just don't have people, you don't have people assigned to that schedule yet.
Exactly. We have the schedule posted. We have the time slots all posted on the site. But what we don't have is individuals assigned to time slots yet. But we'll be working on that in the next few days.
I'm looking at the upcoming events page where this is happening. And there's a click to register today. And I don't know if there's a schedule anywhere to see here.
So if you're on the events.backdrop.org page.
Mm-hmm. Backdrop Live, March 2021.
Yep, great. Okay, you're in the right place. So again, Sarvashri, this isn't the site isn't as designed or as easy to use as ideally it would be. But if you just scroll down the middle of the main page, is
keep going.
An image of a Google sheet, and that's our current schedule. We will try to get this on.
I don't see that.
Okay, you know what? I'm going to go live, or I'm going to stream.
I pasted the link in the chat.
Well, let's
the link to the
screen share. Yep. I'd like to quickly do a screen share though, anyways, because if anybody else is having the problem, Sarvashra is. So this is the website. Now I'm logged in as an admin, but do you see, Sarvashra, are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, it was. Let me.
And can you see this
Bring
event
up the
schedule?
window again. And now Zoom is messing me up.
Well, on the recording, I think
Yeah,
we
I
can
see it.
see.
I see it. Well said.
Good.
This is not where I
So-
was.
Okay, this is not, we can do better, and we will try to do better over the next few days. But for now, that's where the schedule is. There is not any place right now where you can just sign yourself up. Hopefully, we'll also get that working. But for now, what you can do is in Zulip, let us know what you're available to do and when, and we can get you scheduled. And hopefully before the event, we'll have that in a way that anybody can just sign themselves up. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing again. And we can move back to our agenda, unless there's any other questions about Backdrop Live. Okay. So I know Sarvashre sent out this message and would like to talk about video tutorials. I'd like to sort of skim through the just other, for social media, for most everything else. I mean, we're actually in a pretty good shape outreach wise in terms of our meeting the regular things we want to do. We've had at least 1 or 2 blog posts go out in the last week. We've had a newsletter go out. We've had a virtual user group this week. We have, I think, a full dashboard of fresh dashboard notifications, partly because of, although we need to, I think we have a dashboard notification for the virtual user group that already happened. But we'll need to refresh that. We've even had a few things on Twitter and Facebook. So I think we've sort of had more outreach activity going on in the last couple of weeks than we usually do. Is there anything that should be, that we can mention, or announcements that we should get out in any of these places? Okay. The newsletter, Jen, let's talk about this briefly, because the newsletter went out on Monday and it included mention of Backdrop Live, but it wasn't like the thing at the top of the newsletter. And I'm wondering if I think we did like 2 full list blasts before the last Backdrop Live. So I'm hoping it's okay that maybe we do a Backdrop Live only blast early next week.
Okay.
Any thoughts?
Yeah, I think that's fine.
We don't, we're pretty light in our, it's really unusual for us to do 2 weeks in a row. And this seems like a good justification for it.
Yeah.
So, okay. So I think that copy of the newsletter should just focus on Backdrop Live. And so we don't really need to, worry about content too much, because and we'll hit all the other social media things. So I'm skipping down over a lot of this. The external mentions, same thing. If you're aware of any posts or activity on the internet that we should link to, please let us know. I think we've had a few of those posted recently. as I move down our agenda under things we can do, I'm down around documentation and videos on YouTube. And I think those are the two things that Sarvashray wants to talk about. So why don't we jump to that topic for a minute? Sarvashray sent out a Zulip message to a few of us privately, just outlining some of his thoughts. Do you want to quickly summarize them again for the meeting?
Yeah, basically what I'm feeling is that I did a search to see what videos were available for newbies to learn Backdrop, and I couldn't find anything that was remotely usable by a new user. And so I made a list of 11 videos that ought to be made, 11 or 12 videos that need to be made for new users who are just getting into site building. You know, they need, I'll just quickly go through them. They need to know how to make a development system on their computer, a Mac or a PC, and then install Backdrop on it so they can begin work. They need to know how to reserve a domain name for their site with a domain registrar. They need to be able to reserve a hosting space somewhere for wherever that website is going to be hosted. And then they need to obviously be able to link those two together, how to go to their domain register and then link it to their host provider. These are things that developers know all about this, but newbies don't. They need to know how to set up Backdrop templates and other settings for their intended site. And then there's a list of things in creating websites that I don't know how to do, and everyone needs to know how to do all these things. And that is to be able to size and position things like text on the web page, images on the web page, and videos on the web page. So anything they want to put up there, they want to be able to know how, they should know how to position it and how to size it to match with the look that they want. And they do that basically in three different areas. One is the front page, which is unique. The landing page is always unique. And then there's static pages for information that they want to cover on their website with menu links. They need to know how to create a blog for their transitory articles, things that come and go. And they want to be able to actually make their website useful for promotional purposes. For instance, they want to be able to capture the name and email address and other data of the users of their website, whether that's customers or members or followers or staff or however their website is being used. There's people coming to it, and how are they going to reach those people later? They need to be able to grab that information, put it somewhere, and integrate that user information into some sort of system, an email or marketing system, so that they can keep in touch with their market or their followers or whatever they're doing. For people who are creating websites, they usually have to sell a service or a product. So how are they going to sell that service or product? How are they going to get paid for it? Using sort of credit card system or other payment system like PayPal or something is usually pretty easy to do if you know how to do it. If you don't know how to do it, it's not easy. And then how to move your finished site to the host and make it go live. So those are the 11 things that I listed. Maybe that can be put somewhere, those of you who received it. And all of this needs to be done with quality video and audio. Audio needs to be really clean without a lot of background noises and so forth. The video needs to be focused and usable. And so we need some people who know how to create videos that allow them to show off the benefits of Backdrop as compared to other things. Backdrop has a lot of benefits over WordPress, but WordPress has one benefit, and that is there's a lot of videos out there. If you're on WordPress, a lot of videos to help people. We don't have that yet. And we only need about 12 videos for those ideas I just mentioned. 12 videos could be done in probably a month or two with 2 or 3 people working on it full bore.
Sure.
We could create some really nice videos that get people started, and then they can run with it. Then they can go to things like the forum and get questions answered and so forth. But if they don't know where to start, it's really tough.
Sure.
So
Sarvashri, I did try to cut your notes into our meeting minutes, but I'm having problems with Zulip right now. I may need to reboot my system, and I don't want to do that in the middle of the meeting. So if anybody else wants to do that, I think it belongs in GitHub, though. We really should have an issue. But I think in general, your idea is not something anyone's going to argue with. I mean, people might have different ideas about what exactly the content should be, or who the focus should be on. The idea of doing something like this, the question is how, and right, all of us are so busy with so many different things. And I know you in your email said, like, this should be so important that we just set aside other things and focus on this. And I recognize you're also saying that everybody wouldn't have to do that. We just need a couple of people to focus on it.
yeah, if you maybe 2 teams of 2 could do this.
To me, so I'm just trying to think about, we've talked about things like this many, many times. The question is what's blocking it and how do we get past that? I have aspired to do something like this sort of on my own and my own YouTube account for a long time. You know that because that's how we met.
Yeah.
Was Sarvashri started to participate in a course that I tried to teach about a year ago at this time. Actually, I think it was like right at the beginning of the whole. So it isn't that there's a desire to do it. It's how do we break through that? And my suggestion would be that what it needs is just somebody that's willing to spearhead it and sort of be the project manager. And then other people like myself would definitely step up and help and commit some time to it. The problem is I don't have the time to take the lead on it. And I don't know, I think, Sarvashri, I get the feeling that you would be willing to be a part of this.
Yeah, I am.
Don't know how big of a commitment you can make. Go ahead.
I don't know if I'm the best person to lead it or not, because I'm not sure of the skills of all the people that are already in the backdrop community, but I would be willing to be active in making this happen because I see it as the most important thing that needs to be done in the field of outreach, because without these kinds of videos, people can't get started. It's
Sure.
just, it's a major roadblock. So, and see, I sent it to Jen, and I sent it to Tim, and I sent it to, who else? 3 of you. Luke, yeah.
Yeah, I know Luke shares some of your.
Yeah, and Luke was
ideas.
starting to do something with GitHub with it. I don't know how to use GitHub, but he was trying to get what he calls a ready to wear thing. And this is along those lines. So maybe Luke and myself could team up to spearhead this thing. If we know,
Sure.
What I don't know is who has really good tutorial development skills. Who knows how to create good videos, and who knows Backdrop well enough to make a really clean, good, to the point presentation of Backdrop. Right. I know that Jen has done this sort of thing before, and Nate has done these things in live circumstances. I was watching one of them, but the audio is not good. You need a direct mic to make those things work in a live environment. But anyway,
so,
that's what I'm after. Maybe this could be something that could be part of the upcoming live thing, that we could use that as a entree to grab people to do these things.
Well, as an organizer, what I would suggest to you is that one way to do this is to schedule a session on this topic at Backdrop Live and make it the whole point of that discussion to come up with a plan.
Yeah.
Our goal for this meeting is as a plan on how to keep the work going, because Obviously, you won't solve it during Backdrop Live.
A plan and
Like-
some commitments of people to
Yeah.
implement the plan.
Exactly, and maybe a schedule for like meeting or something, because I think that's going to require more work than can get done in the context of this biweekly outreach meeting.
Where would we
Certainly it's
go?
something-
Where would we go after Backdrop Live to keep this alive? Is Zulip the place to do it, or is there some other context
Sure.
that's better?
Well, the three things I can think of is we have different tools for different purposes, right? So certainly for day-to-day communication, Zulip works well. We have GitHub for project management. And if you need help learning how to use GitHub, we could help you with that. I'd be happy to like spend a half an hour or an hour and do a one-on-one tutorial with you and show you around GitHub, because I'm sure you'd be finding it. It's a little intimidating when you first look at it, but it's not that hard. Because you're not going to need to do pull requests or anything like that. You know, you don't have to work with code. You just need to use it kind of like a discussion forum. And the third thing would be Zoom. If you need help setting up Zoom rooms, again, one thing I can commit to is helping facilitate things like that, like help you make sure you have a meeting space or schedule meetings, announce them. I can help promote them, but I need somebody else to sort of write the agenda.
Those video discussions are really great, I think. And maybe, is there a place on the forum, in the Backdrop forum, for this sort of thing?
There certainly could be, I think. I don't know if we have like a dedicated topic area for like instructional stuff right now.
Outreach,
Well,
tutorials,
there's the initiatives.
documentation. Yeah, I went through all of the documentation, the user manual. That did not empower me to do anything that I didn't know already how to do, which was not much.
Okay.
The documentation won't serve that purpose for a newbie. It might for an experienced developer.
Sure. I don't think the forum, in my view, is the best place for organizing this. It is a place that you could post updates or stuff. But we really think of the forum as mostly a place just for people to give input or ask questions. I think as a community, we tend to use GitHub as the working tool where we get stuff done.
Okay.
So
Probably the first thing that should be is a video for how to use GitHub if we're getting people who don't know how to use it into this.
Sure. Okay. So it sounds to me like the next steps on this are one, I don't want to commit to anything before Backdrop Live. So let's get it on the agenda for Backdrop Live. And then with the goal to set up a follow-up meeting and to sort of set an agenda to get input.
Okay.
After Backdrop Live, at the very, maybe you and I, Sarvashre, could do that GitHub video. And, you know, like we could do a one-on-one session and I could walk you through how, and we could record it, maybe edit it afterwards and go from there. How does that sound?
That sounds great.
Okay. Yeah, so it's a great topic. It's just how do we get it done? And I think, Sarvashre, you've moved us a step forward. So thank you.
I have a list. That's always where I start.
And I sort of lumped this together with documentation because this is a kind of documentation. But obviously there's a lot of other things going on in terms of documentation right now. But I don't know if there's anything to report on. I feel like that the work on the new documentation site hasn't changed since we last talked about it. If anybody has any thoughts on that. I did actually post a couple of YouTube videos in the last 2 weeks, but they're not exactly what Sarvashre is looking for. They're more like how to use specific modules. So there is some new video content out there related to Backdrop.
Whatever content is really good and usable by newbies, it should be part of a list of here's how you get started. Here's the thing, step by step.
Right.
You know, that they
Well, I
can
think it's that
go to.
step-by-step part that's missing. Sarvashri is. The videos that are out there are all very focused on specific things. They don't follow any order. There's no
Yeah,
organization.
it's total
random.
chaos, really.
Yeah.
And that needs to be organized. There were several on how to set up different Linux platforms for working with backdrop. You know, those could be one category.
Jen, for context, because I think you would know about this, in the Drupal world, how has this happened? I think it mostly happened through private, like modules. What was it?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always been sort of a smattering of online videos for people who just are passionate about making videos and figured something out and made one. But the real kicker that made it complete was when companies like Modules Unraveled, Drupalize Me, Build a Module came out with a business model behind having video tutorials for stuff. And that was the main driver. I know, you know, Nate's entire experience of doing videos was back when it came on like CD in the mail and we put it in and watched it. He hasn't done anything in the online video space. They just converted all of his CD-ROMs into videos. And then I came along a lot later when Drupalize Me first started. They hired me to make video tutorials on a specific subject. I mean, without having a business entity that wants to do like online backdrop tutorials, we don't necessarily have that project management organization coming behind us being like, we need these 4 videos on these 4 topics. And I know that there are a couple of people in our community that are passionate about making videos. I have a client who makes training videos for his business, who loves backdrop and wants to make training videos for backdrop, but he just doesn't have any time. And I think that's kind of what we're facing in a lot of areas where I know, at least for me, making the videos to make 1 hour video took like 10 hours of time. And so it's just hard to justify, well, oh, I could do so much good in 10 hours in, you know, X area, or I could do the video thing. And for people like me, and I think maybe Nate too, we are not passionate about the video thing. So you're like, well, I'll just do the thing that I want to do more than the thing I don't want to do. So I think it's hard to justify setting aside that time and forcing yourself to do it without you know, company paying you to do it, or somebody asking you nicely to do it. When it's just up to you, it's much harder to.
Are there some people in the community who are video producers?
I don't know about the word producer, what that actually means, but I know that there are people in the community who make videos for other purposes, but I don't know if that's like their job. You know, I'm not sure they have like professional skills, but it's just something they do. Like they make online tutorials about other things.
Well, I've been watching a number of sort of news sites, and the way the news sites make videos is they have 2 people. One person is sort of the question answer newbie person, and the other one is the expert or whatever. And they go back and forth. You know, what about this? What about this? And that person comes on and he describes the latest news on that particular subject. The same thing could be done to create these videos. You have somebody who is a newbie like myself who doesn't understand what to do. I know what I want, but I don't know how to do it. So if you paired me up, or somebody like me, with someone who's an expert in backdrop, and say, okay, I have these 12 things I need to know to be able to do backdrop well. So we'll start with number 1. How do you do this? How do you do this? I never did find out how to make a site go live without putting it in maintenance mode and replacing the website, you know, or something, you know, and then, you know, but there's got to be ways that people do it properly. I don't know what that is. There's all kinds of little gotchas. If you don't know how to do it, you get stuck. And I get stuck for days and weeks at a time. And I give up for a while and I come back 4 months later and I start again.
This is a good idea though. We could have some kind of a like ask an expert series where if somebody came up with a list of like 5 questions, you could sit down with an expert for like half an hour And I think anyone in the backdrop community would be willing to give up half an hour to answer 5 questions. And that doesn't necessarily have to be like speaking answers. That could be screen share. It could be, let me show you my personal way I like to do that, maybe different than someone else's, and an explanation why. And that could be really fun too, if we had Ask an Expert with like 30 different people, right? Where each person would be like, here's the 5 questions I'm answering. So you get answers to all those questions, but it wouldn't necessarily rest on the shoulders of like one person who's a video producer to do it. You could have more of a like community involved perspectives on answering these questions. So that could be fun.
Yeah, it could have a couple of people asking the expert even.
Yeah.
So I really like that idea. For one thing, it's more lively. It's more interesting. It's more fun for the expert, and rather than just sitting and trying to figure out what somebody wants and doing it all by themselves.
Yeah.
You know, 2 people working together is so much more fun than somebody just sitting there. Oh, I need to create another tutorial. How am I going to do it? What am I going to, where's my list of things to do? You know, I don't think that's much fun for the expert. So I like your idea. I think if we
idea. I like your idea.
I'm giving it to you. But yeah, it's an idea. This idea, ask the expert thing. You came up with that phrase, and I think that's really a grabbing phrase. It's really a good one, and people would want to participate in something like that.
Yep, it'll be fun.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, let's move on. So if people have probably already noticed, I've taken a bit more responsibility for the outreach meetings lately. One of the things I'd like to do in the future is clean up our agenda and organize it a little bit more. Because I feel like it gets a little repetitive right now if I just follow through the template. We were talking about, I don't know, at this point, I just like anything else on the agenda that anybody wants to talk about. I'm going to try and schedule some more virtual user groups after. We'll skip next 2 weeks from now, or next couple weeks because of Backdrop Live. So we'll talk about that later. Is there anything else going on in the world of outreach that we need to talk about in our last 5 minutes?
Just to add this to the topic schedule.
Sure.
You're planning to do that. I'm looking at the schedule now.
I'm sorry, what is your question?
I'm looking at the schedule now, and it's starting out with theming and layouts in Backdrop. I think there should be an introduction to Backdrop as the very first thing. And
what schedule? You're looking at the schedule for Backdrop Live?
Uh-huh.
I have a feeling you might be looking at the September one.
It says event is happening March 12th and 13th.
Okay. Maybe somebody's added something.
Scrolling down. Oh, see the Google Sheet with schedule. I'm not looking at that. I'm just looking at the topics / schedule at the bottom of the page.
Okay, that is just a list of possible topics. That's not a schedule. So those are all topics that could come up. So we should rephrase that because I see how that's confusing.
Yeah, I'm thinking that's the schedule, but really the Google Sheet is the actual schedule.
Yeah. And there's very few topics right now on the agenda or on the schedule. Okay. I placed a couple of things that have been coming up. There's been several requests to have a discussion about funding Backdrop development, Backdrop governance. We have somebody asked about Backdrop CMS and CVCRM. Basically the way scheduled development is happening right now is I am just sort of placing things on there and asking people for feedback, and we can move things around. So if you have a topic, I'd love for people to say, I'd like to talk about X, I'll facilitate it, and I want to put it in slot 8. If you tell me that makes the job a lot easier. So you should tell us what we want to add on here. Jen, I'm having my normal panic at this stage in terms of topics about things like what Sarvash just said. We sort of say, we want to build our own schedule. We want to have recorded sessions in advance and have it discussion orientated. But where does the welcome introduction to backdrop go? Do we just call that a discussion topic? And what are there things like that we want to kind of make sure we get into the schedule?
Yeah, I mean, I think we definitely want to be sure we have that. If we want to do it as a discussion, it would be great if we could have the facilitator be like someone who could ask the questions, and then the conversation could be like the room answering it, rather than the facilitator being someone who is giving a lecture.
Right.
In order to keep it more open in discussion format. But I do think we should definitely have at least one intro to backdrop, or what is backdrop, or whatever style sort of curiosity answering session
Right.
for maybe not each time zone, but one on opposite times of the schedule, so that we can have people in every part of the world get those questions answered.
Okay, so for instance, 9 a.m. March 12th, the beginning of the day, New York time, 9 a.m. First session of the day should be this grand opening, that talks about what backdrop is, why we're excited about it, what's the latest, why you should get involved, why you should get excited, or everything. That's the main intro. And so first thing on Friday,
sure,
first thing on Saturday or something would be the time to do those.
Sure, Sarvash. I mean, my feedback on that is, I don't disagree that one of the first sessions could be getting started with backdrop or intro. For most participants, they're past that, so I don't consider that the grand opening. Our big welcome session we've actually scheduled in the third slot. And the reason we did that is because it's 6 a.m. on the West Coast. And we wanted just a more friendly time to have our big, what I would call the grand opening. But I don't disagree that having one of the first two sessions be an introduction to backdrop or getting started.
It could be a third session. That would be 1 o'clock. No, it'd be 11 o'clock.
Right. Well, yeah, but that is not going to be an intro to backdrop, because 75% of the people that are at, I'm making up that number, of course, most people are past the stage of an introduction to backdrop. They know who it is. They know what they want. So that welcome session for me is more about what's new in the world of backdrop. It's like, here's what's happening right now. This is what we've accomplished since our last big meeting. It's that kind of thing. I think having an introduction to backdrop session paired with something else that's maybe a little more advanced in the first slot makes sense. Although Jen knows that I'm going to ask her to do it, and it's 6 a.m. for her. So. Maybe we can find
about new users and what we can do to expand the base.
Yep.
Then always catering to the people who already know everything.
Yeah. I think we agree on the intent and the need for that. I just disagree on that being our grand opening. For me, the grand opening is a more general.
That's fine. That's fine. It could be a grand opening. It could be 10 a.m. It could be any time.
Yeah.
But sometime early in the thing, it should be something for new people.
Sure.
Doesn't have to be your main third listing that you have marked as opening here.
Right. No, that is intended to be something else, but we got to get the intro. What else should we? So I think getting started with backdrop or intro to backdrop are two different ways of saying the same thing. Anybody? Okay. How should we do that? And does anybody want to volunteer to do one of those? Let's get that out. We'll get that out on Zulip and see if we can get some people to volunteer to do that. Jen, do you think we should have the same topic twice at different times of the day, or similarly titled topics that are similar?
It doesn't matter. I think similar is fine, especially if we get different facilitators for each one. Let them.
Sure.
do it however,
But
but yeah, something that covers the same general content.
But the main point is at least that they're very clearly targeted at people who are just starting, right? That's sort of how I would summarize the main point. In my view, what I plan to tell people in terms of like presentation is that we're not looking for any prepared presentations, but I do think that like having a backdrop site open and screen sharing and, you know, walking people around and letting people ask questions, you know, that the facilitator for this should be prepared to do that, right? Does that make sense? Okay.
Whoever's facilitating should be able to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
This list of topics that you have already that are not yet in the actual agenda for the Backdrop Live, you can just kind of pick them and put them where you think they should go for now.
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to end the meeting so we can have a break between meetings. And then Sarvashri, I'll talk to you more about that. Okay?
Okay.
Let's officially wrap up this